How much longer after Karl Marx wrote his book, Communist Manifesto, we had a country that was a communistic country running on his philosophies?
About 50 years, right?
Yeah,
50 years?
40,
Is that the
50
timeline?
years.
Okay.
About 50 years of that.
So Nolan came out in 71. It is now 2022.
So we're
it's
due.
about 50 years. And
We're due.
there-
Our time.
there's
Our time
not
is
there's
now.
not
It's our
one
time.
country for libertarian.
Our time is now.
And the only ones you can say, maybe New Zealand's got an element of it, but not necessarily fully there. So why hasn't if this philosophy is so effective and so peaceful and so necessary and so free, why hasn't one of these countries chosen to take it up as their way of running their country?
Well, here's what, as Milton Friedman, right, as someone you're a fan of, I mean, he would say it this way, right, that if you want to look, the United States of America, between the end of, let's say, take the end of the Civil War to about 1910, so about 1865 to 1910. In this, and I'm not saying everything was perfect back then, I'm not saying it was a libertarian society, but economically speaking, looking at it, there was no central bank, there was no income tax. There was essentially no federal regulation of the economy. The national spending was something like 2% of the national income. By today's standards, you'd be like, this is basically anarchist. There's literally no government intervention. And in this time period, we had the largest, at the time, expansion of wealth, the biggest improvement in the lot and life of the average man in the history of the world. There's the wealth that had never been thought of before was created. Now, the problem that I think freedom has is that, also a Milton Friedman quote, he goes, freedom is in the general interest, but it's not in anybody's special interest.
There's the issue.
And so what happens is, as the wealth gets created more and more, the government tends to siphon off it. The parasitical class tends to siphon more and more and more, and this grows the government. And so this is the issue that we've been dealing with. It's like, because we're the richest country in the world, it was because we were the most free country in the world, we become the richest country in the world. Because we're the richest country in the world, we now have the largest tax base. This leads to the government getting bigger and bigger, and now we have the largest government in the world. The largest, most powerful government in the history of humanity is the United States federal government. So that is the challenge. But it's not as if maybe no country has embraced the entire libertarian program. That's also true for Marxism. It's not as if any country really embraced every single word he ever wrote. But the countries who have embraced more freedom have been the most successful countries in the world. So I think my view for what the solution is to that is to create as much of a libertarian populist uprising as we can have.
Yes.
I think the more people that believe in these values, the more libertarians there are, the more likely we are to live in a libertarian.
What's the difference between libertarian and independent?
Well, I think libertarian is a philosophical outlook, whereas independent just means you are not part of one of these two, you know what I mean? Like
or any
major
of the parties.
or any of the parties.
One's a political affiliation,
So you
one's
can
an
be-
actual philosophy.
I mean, you could be both a libertarian and an independent,
Yep.
or you could be a member of the Libertarian Party and an independent thinker. But an independent could just be something different than what the establishment is, whereas we are something specific. People who believe in human liberty.
And the reason that a lot of independents aren't coming to the Libertarian Party, and for that matter, a lot of most self-described libertarians aren't members of the Libertarian Party. So, for example, one of the best ways you can judge if someone's a libertarian or not is how they register in their voting. In most states, the difference between registered libertarians in states that have party registering or have third party registering and members of that state party is 99%.
Yes.
It's like 1% of, and I'm not talking about the population of the state. I'm saying people that have already identified as libertarians are not joining the party. And the reason is, and I think this is what you're saying, you're not asking from a philosophical standpoint. You're saying, why are people not becoming libertarians? And I think the answer is because our focus has been wrong. We talk all the time about what libertarians are going to do for the wars, what we're going to do for healthcare, what we're going to do in D.C. and with the Federal Reserve. And those are good things to talk about. But long before the vast majority of people who actually decide who is in office decide to give us a shot, they want to see how we're going to deal with things in their backyard.
I'm trying to talk about it.
No, and I know you are. And the reason that coming out of the campaign, the reason that I started You Are the Power is because we're doing exactly that. Localized, grassroots, single issue activism. Show people what libertarianism looks like as policy, how it actually looks like in practice instead of these great theories. I can come in here and sell you the best idea possible, but if it never happens, then it makes just as much sense for me to say, the way we're going to deal with China is by me throwing magic thunderbolts at them, and then that'll fix it. With the likelihood of us winning the presidency right now, I might as well give that answer. It makes more sense for our main focus to be on where we're actually already winning, sometimes despite ourselves, which is at the local level, which grows us as a party. It shows people that we aren't this, utopian pipe dream. It's actual common sense, feasible things that can be done, and we can build up from there. And we build the infrastructure, because not only when The Rock converts to libertarianism will he be able to win because we have the structure in place, but he'll want to in the first place instead of just joining one of the other parties and trying to change it from the inside, which never happens. That's a scam there. But the reason that they would do that is because right now we don't have much to offer them. So we have to build from the ground up. And if we don't do that, then we're going to be here 50 years later talking about, in theory, how ending the Federal Reserve would end our 400% inflation rate.
In 2018, after I won ballot access and party status for my party, Libertarian Party in New York, I crossed the state again in 2019 after I had lost. But by the way, to your point, there were 7,000 registered libertarians in New York State in 2018. I got 100,000 votes.
He's a prototype of what I'm talking about.
Exactly. That's exactly what he says.
Yeah.
So then after that, I crossed the state again. And in 2019, we had 107 victories at the local level. We went from 0 libertarians to 107 in 1 year. And then the state afterwards decided, oh, yeah, we're going to change the rules on how you can get in the ballot. So now we couldn't get in the ballot anymore. And you might say, what does that mean? Most people don't realize getting on the ballot, just being on a ballot so you can have a choice to vote for me, costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, takes massive amount of people to get on the ballot. You can't get in the ballot. When the people independents came to me with tons of money and said, Larry, we want to run as an independent in 2022. People ask me that. 2022, 2020, I'm sorry. 2020, we want to run independent. I said, great, you're going to have $40 million and you probably won't be able to get in all 50 states. They're like, what? I said, yeah. Well, we have that money. I know you can raise $50 million, but you can't get through the red tape to be on every single ballot in 50 states. Just run Libertarian. We've already done that already. Yep. They're like, oh, well, we don't run independent. You can't. If you could run independent, there'd be a President Bloomberg right now. Yeah. It's impossible. Ballot access is one of our biggest issues, which is why I run to gain ballot access so people can get on the ballot. And we just got hammered again in New York State. Now I got to get 45,000 signatures in 6 weeks. And they just made new laws that destroyed our local congressional districts. So now Congress people can't even get on the ballot independent because there's no congressional districts.
Let me ask you.
They hammer us this way.
Tell me who is a major influencer in America today that has libertarian tendencies. Would you put Musk in that category or no?
No, I put Musk in that category, Rogan in that category, absolutely. I put Drew Carey, who talks to seniors every day in his TV show.
Would you put Thiel in that category?
Yeah.
Thiel's in that category,
I think
right?
he's certainly very interested in libertarian ideas. Right. I think he kind of is somewhere between a populist and a libertarian.
Musk, what would you say Musk is?
Musk, I think, is actually a left libertarian. I think so is Rogan. I think both of them are left-leaning libertarians.
Okay. So who has sat down with these guys to try to get them to start selling the concept of libertarian? Well, not Rogan. I'm talking Musk.
Well, yeah. I mean, Joe's a good friend of mine. But there's, in terms of, I'm trying to work on him to get Peter Thiel and those guys on board. But I think that, I mean,
there's a guy to do that.
Peter Thiel, I believe, donated to Ron Paul's campaign. I believe so. So I think he's well aware of these ideas. Also, weirdly enough, Jack Dorsey tweeted out Murray Rothbard article, Man, Economy, and State, which to me is like the greatest libertarian piece of writing in history.
Well, he's a big crypto Bitcoin guy.
Yeah, so he's kind of in that world. But I don't know what his deal is though. Because he's like, now he's like, Elon Musk is right. No one should be kicked off Twitter. And you're like,
Can I ask
you were there for a while, man. Yeah. Could have heard this.
Larry brought up Andrew Yang. We had Andrew Yang, a month ago?
Yeah.
He's endorsed me. I'm literally backed by the Forward Party.
My question is, okay, so he's starting this new Forward Party?
Party.
Okay. Yes. That's essentially a competitor to the Libertarian Party?
No, an ally.
An ally.
It is an ally, 100%, because they want to break the duopoly just like we do. We are 100% allies.
Okay, but aren't you guys
we
competing for votes?
Well, sure, but yes, we are competing for votes, but we are allies in crushing duopoly. That's why he realized it's hard to run within the party, right? Mm-hmm. He realized it. Amash realized it. Tulsi Gabbard left the Democratic Party. I mean, maybe not officially, but in reality she has. They're all leaving because they realize the two-party system doesn't work. That's why we're allies. We are all allies. It's like when the Japanese invaded China. Right? There were the Maoists, and then there were the Chiang Kai-shek people. They got together to fight the Japanese. That's us. We're together to fight the empire.
Oh, that doesn't end very well.
It doesn't. It doesn't. But let's hope we change that. We learn from our mistakes.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend, is 100%. What you're saying.
So, okay.
What about the Green Party?
We work together. I know Howie Hawkins. Howie Hawkins is my friend. We're both Marines. And by the way, Howie Hawkins is so far left. We get our guns back. He's actually pro 2A. He's a real socialist. He literally was the Socialist Party nominee in 2020, and he is my friend, and we are absolute allies. 100%.
Is there enough room for all these parties that are getting 1%?
If you add them all up, remember, New York State is a plurality state. I don't need 51% of New Yorkers. I need 35% of those who vote. Mm-hmm. There are 18 million New Yorkers, about 12 million eligible to vote, 10 million registered to vote, about 6 million actually vote. So if I get about 2.5 million votes, I win. So I need about 1 in 8. I don't even need a majority. I need 1 in 8, and I'm the governor.
Larry, for the people you were talking off camera, how are the conditions in New York? What's happened in New York the last 10 years?
Oh, my God, horrible. New York, we've lost over 2 million people in the past 11 years, to include this guy right here, which makes me angry. But yes, we've lost lots of people from New York. They all take off and they leave because we're too oppressive, right? Our government is so oppressive that it breaks up families. My mother had to retire and eventually die in South Carolina because she couldn't afford living in New York State, and she left her grandchildren for that. It's terrible. New York State is a basket case where we now have a budget that went from $170 billion to $220 billion while we're losing millions of people. That math doesn't work. We just keep raising our budget. We just keep making things harder. We keep making more rules and regulations. We keep crushing our families. And then we wonder why. Some realtors are telling me that 1,000 people a day are leaving.
If you guys have noticed that you have some much louder, more obnoxious neighbors lately,
yes,
that's because
Did you see what's on the Wall Street Journal? Yes. I showed you the cover of the Wall Street Journal about how Miamians are basically up in arms about how much rent has increased.
Florida is red because of New York.
Ridiculous.
Florida used to be a swing state, but we have exported all of our Republican, our red and conservative voters to Florida. We made Florida a red state. It was a purple state before New York.
Jessica, is there any state worse than California? I mean, what's going on there?
Oh, no. I had a question for you about what you think of the recent development about in New York not even needing to be a citizen to vote.
Yeah, they can't do it in federal elections, but they can do it in local elections. And that's going to be coming into effect in New York. And it's a terrible idea for many reasons, but one of them is because it's only 30 days. Which makes it extra bad. So
well, maybe I should go visit so I can come vote for you.
You can.
Oh, okay.
Show up.
Great.
But yes, show up and
31 days or
exactly.
Just stay for 31 days, and you can vote in New York City. That's a city thing, not a state thing. It's a city thing.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.